Morning, everybody. Edmund here. Today we're going to be going through Job 2, verses 1 through 10. Just a quick little background. In chapter 1, we meet Job. He's a blameless and upright man that feared God. He had a big family with 10 kids, and we see that he was rich with lots of livestock. And the Lord was proud of him. And one day when Satan was presenting himself to the Lord with a bunch of other angels, the Lord was basically showing off Job to Satan. And Satan was telling the Lord he's like this. He loves you and he worships you because you protect him and you've given him all of these possessions, this great big family, lots of livestock. And he was like, basically, you take all that stuff away from him and he'll definitely reject you. So the Lord allows Satan to affect his life in any way he wants except for his health. And Satan arranged for all his kids to be killed, his livestock to be killed, and after he loses all this stuff, Job still didn't sin against God, and he continued to worship God and love God through all that. So let's get started here in chapter 2. So verse 1. Again there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. So just as in Job 1:6, the angels are checking in with the Lord, and they're probably checking in to report on what they've been up to or get instructions through a new mission. I'm not really exactly sure, but regardless, we see that Satan is also checking in here. Now, a lot of people think that Satan is the opposite of God, but if he was the opposite of God, he definitely wouldn't be presenting himself here before the Lord. Satan is just a created being. Just like the Lord created the angels, he also created Satan, just like he created you and I. And in verse 2, it reads, And the Lord said to Satan, From where do you come? So Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro on the earth, and from walking back and forth on it. So God's asking Satan what you've been up to, and Satan says that he's been wandering the earth, and he's been out there tempting people, trying to get people to fail and to fall into sin. And that's what Satan's going to do with us every single day. He's going to try to make us fall and reject the Lord. And verse 3, Then the Lord said to Satan, Have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man, one who fears God and shuns evil? And still he holds fast to his integrity, although you incited me against him to destroy him without cause. So here we see God again. He's showing him off. He's like, hey, yo, Job, look at him. He's still faithful. He still loves me. He still hates evil, even though you took everything away from him. God is super proud of Job, and it's almost like God is just throwing it into Satan's face. We need to ask ourselves, do we live our life like that? Do we live our life in a way that the Lord is going to be super proud of us? We need to try to live our lives that way every single day. In verse 4, so Satan answered the Lord and said, Skin for skin, yes, all that a man has, he will give for his life. In verse 5, But stretch out your hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will surely curse you to your face. And he's like, Satan's basically like, yeah, he still has his health. You make him think that he's about to lose his life, I guarantee you he's going to reject you. So again, constantly, Satan's trying to make him look bad. He's constantly trying to make us look bad too, and make us look like failures to the Lord. And we need to remember that we need to try to live 100% for the Lord and not allow Satan to have us reject the Lord when things get tough. In verse 6, And the Lord said to Satan, Behold, he is in your hand, but spare his life. So the Lord is allowing the devil to affect Job's life now, his health, as long as he doesn't take his life. And the Lord knows Job. He knows Job better than Job knows Job. And the Lord is super proud of him. He knows that the Lord is going to try to get Job to crack. However, the Lord knows better. He knows that Job is not going to crack, and that's why he's allowing the devil to tempt him like that. And we need to remember again, do we live our life in such a way that the Lord has complete confidence in us? Would the Lord be able to tell the devil, hey, do whatever you want with Edmund, and I guarantee you he's not going to crack? And I hope so. I hope I live my life like that 100%. In verse 7, So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord and struck Job with painful boils from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. So Satan's not messing around here. He really wants Job to crack. He really wants Job to turn away from the Lord. He's making him think that the Lord doesn't have his back. But when times get tough, we need to remember that the Lord is always with us, and he's always watching over us. He allows these difficult challenges in our life. However, those challenges can be used to grow us or bring glory to God. When things get difficult at work, when people are like just shooting comments against us, those are times that we could be built up by the Lord. We need to live our lives that other people say, man, you know what, this guy, he has no worries, he trusts the Lord, and we need to bring God glory in every situation that we're in. In verse 8, And he took for himself a potsherd with which to scrape himself while he sat in the midst of the ashes. So a potsherd is basically just a broken piece of pottery. He was trying to make himself more comfortable using this broken pottery to kind of scrape at the wounds. He wasn't complaining, he wasn't crying. And when things get tough for us, do we sit there and whine and complain? Do we accuse God of not loving us? Man, we best not, man. You need to suck it up, Buttercup, and know that God's dealing with, God's allowing us to deal with things for a very good reason, and it's going to build us up. And we need just to have confidence that the Lord knows exactly what's happening, and He's not going to allow us to deal with anything that we can't handle. In verse 9, then his wife said to him, "Do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die." So Job's wife seems to have little faith that God's in control. She doesn't trust that God's watching over Job's life. She probably is really shocked that Job still trusts God, and she's trying to convince Job that he should just reject God, give up, and just die. And that's pretty wild. And people that don't live for the Lord, they're going to try to bring us down. They're going to try to get us to retreat from the Lord. But we need to remember that the Lord is not our enemy. We need to run to Him when times are tough. We can never give up on the Lord. He has us in the palm of our hands. When times get tough at work, we need to seek His comfort. We need to seek His advice and pay attention to what the Holy Spirit is trying to tell us, and just follow His lead and try to, like I said, bring Him glory. And the last verse, verse 10, but he said to her, "You speak as one of the foolish women speak. Shall we indeed accept the good from God, and shall we not accept adversity?" In all this, Job did not sin with his lips. So Job rebukes his wife for her unwise and foolish comments. And Job knows that God provides all things that are good and allows for difficulties as well. But again, sometimes God's going to allow for these difficult times. He allows the devil to tempt us, but He knows that we can overcome these temptations on our own. And He will use all of these situations to grow us, to make us better Christians, to make us better people, to represent Him in all that we do. And we need to always remember that, you guys. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys all have a great weekend, and we will talk to you next time. Bye.